That was the sentence my father whispered into my ear while everyone else was still clinking glasses in the living room. It was a Thursday evening in Austin, Texas. The house smelled like lemon candles and catered chicken marsala. Supposedly, we were gathering to remember my grandmother, Gloria Ray Whitmore, on the one-year anniversary of her passing. But something in the air told me it wasn't about remembrance. It was a setup. I should have known the moment I pulled up and saw a valet in our family's driveway. We never used valet. We weren't that kind of family. I walked in, holding a store-bought bouquet and a bottle of red. My mom greeted me like a game show host. Loud, sparkly, too rehearsed. "There she is! Our golden girl," she called, waving me in like I was the star of the show. That alone made me pause. My mom hasn't called me Golden Girl since college. That title belonged to my younger brother Mason now, the entrepreneur, the one who failed 3 businesses and still somehow got praised at every holiday dinner. The living room was packed. Extended cousins I hadn't seen in years. My Uncle Todd, who owed me $4,000 and still sent me happy birthday texts like nothing happened. Even my dad wore a suit, which he reserved only for court appearances and hospital visits. And in the middle of the coffee table, resting neatly on a silver tray between 2 champagne flutes, was a leather binder. I froze. They didn't even try to hide it. "Come sit," Mom cooed, guiding me to the center couch like I was about to open a wedding gift. "We have something very special to show you." The second I sat down, my dad handed me a pen. "It's nothing serious, just some paperwork related to Grandma's estate. Quick signature, and we'll get back to dinner." I opened the binder. The first page was titled, "Whitmore Family Reallocation Agreement." Below that, my name, Autumn Renee Whitmore, and then the sentence that made my hands go cold. "I, Autumn Renee Whitmore, hereby waive all rights and claims to the Gloria R. Whitmore Trust, allowing full redistribution to the undersigned representatives." I looked up slowly. "You've got to be kidding me." Mason leaned against the wall with a whiskey in hand, trying to look casual. "It's not a big deal, Autumn. You don't even need the money. You're the stable one." And there it was. The excuse they always used. I was fine. I was stable. I was the one who took over 2 jobs to pay off Mason's DUI attorney when he totaled Dad's car. I was the one who quietly covered Mom's emergency dental bills after her second cosmetic surgery got infected. I was the one who moved back home after Grandma had a stroke and stayed up every night tracking her insulin, massaging her swollen legs, brushing her hair. They didn't even show up to the hospice until the week she passed. And now? Now they wanted me to just sign it away. "Why didn't anyone tell me about this before tonight?" I asked, my voice tight. Dad sighed, already irritated. "Because you get emotional, Autumn. This was supposed to be simple." My fingers clenched the binder so tight, the edge started to bend. "And this is what Grandma wanted? You're sure?" Mom gave a tight smile, like a bad politician. "She discussed it with us, yes. She said she wanted things equal." "No," I said, standing up. "Grandma believed in fair, not equal. There's a difference." The room went quiet. "You're making a scene," Mason muttered, shifting uncomfortably. "Good," I said, raising my voice just enough. "Because apparently, that's the only way anyone here listens." I looked around the room. People who had smiled at me when I walked in, now avoiding my eyes like I was contagious. Then I spotted it. A manila envelope tucked under the binder, marked in red. "For Autumn, confidential." I reached for it. Mom stepped forward. "That's not for—" I grabbed it before she could stop me, ripped it open, hands shaking, and what slid out was a sealed letter in my grandmother's handwriting, and a small flash drive. I stared at it, heart pounding. Because if Grandma had left me something behind, it meant she knew this would happen. And suddenly, this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about the truth. I didn't sleep that night. The envelope sat on my kitchen counter like a living thing, radiating heat, tension, truth. I stared at it while reheating leftover noodles I didn't touch. The flash drive was small, matte black, no label. But in my hand, it felt heavier than it should have. I read the note 5 times. It was handwritten. Grandma's cursive, still sharp despite the tremor in her hands those last few months. Autumn, if you're reading this, it means they didn't wait long. I'm sorry. I tried to believe they'd do right by you. But I saw things you didn't. This drive holds my voice, and the documents they never wanted you to find. Be brave. Do not sign anything, and do not trust them with your silence. I think I cried without realizing it. Silent tears, no sobbing. Just that dull ache in your chest when something sacred breaks. By 8 a.m., I was standing outside the law office of Francine Hale, my grandmother's estate attorney. A woman so polished and efficient, she once made my dad stammer like a teenager trying to get out of detention. The receptionist led me in without hesitation. Francine was waiting, calm, her gray curls tied back, her hands clasped on a manila folder. "I've been expecting you," she said. My voice cracked a little. "You knew they'd come for it?" She nodded slowly. "Your grandmother made a special amendment to her trust 6 weeks before she passed, only to be revealed if you were asked to sign a waiver under pressure." She slid the folder across the desk. I opened it, expecting legal jargon. But the first page wasn't legal. It was personal. It was a list. Each entry detailed a financial transaction. $17,000 wired from the family trust to M. Sir Whitmore Holdings, LLC. $8,400 labeled rehab deposit, withdrawn the same day Mason posted Instagram stories from Miami. $25,000 from the Gloria Whitmore Medical Fund, sent to my mother's private account in Las Vegas. Each one signed off by my father as temporary reallocation, each one with zero intention of being returned. I looked up, stunned. "She knew all of this?" Francine nodded. "She had me trace every withdrawal after her second stroke. She said it was for Autumn's peace of mind." My mouth felt dry. "What about the trust itself? Can they take it if I refuse to sign?" Her answer changed everything. Number. In fact, if you do sign under duress, a clause activates. One they don't know exists. It redirects 100% of the remaining trust to 3 nonprofits your grandmother supported: a shelter for single mothers, a scholarship fund for underprivileged STEM students, and a rural medical clinic. I blinked. She booby-trapped her own trust? Francine smiled. She called it her insurance policy against manipulation. I sat back, stunned. So that was the plan all along. My parents didn't just want my signature, they needed it. Without it, they'd walk away with nothing. And that's when I knew this was never about family. It was about control. That evening, while the city glowed gold outside my window, I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. The screen flickered, then faded into a video. There she was. My grandmother, propped up in her favorite armchair, soft cardigan, pearl earrings, oxygen tube gently framing her face. "Autumn," she said, voice frail but firm. "If you're watching this, they've done what I feared." She didn't mince words. She talked about how my mother blamed me for things I never did, how my father took money behind her back, how Mason was her biggest heartbreak. Not because he failed, but because he never owned it. And then she said something that broke me open. "They call you the strong one because they expect you to carry their weight. But I see you, Autumn. Not the good girl they molded, but the woman you fought to become. That's why I left everything to you. Not because I thought you'd share it, but because I knew you'd protect it." I sat frozen as the screen faded to black. And in that moment, I wasn't angry. I wasn't even sad. I was awake. Fully, finally, painfully awake. I closed the laptop, heart pounding, because I knew what I had to do next. Tomorrow, I'm inviting them all to my apartment. Not to talk, not to plead, but to show them the truth they never thought I'd be brave enough to reveal. I spent all night preparing, not with threats, not with lawyers, but with truth. I printed every single document Francine had given me, every shady withdrawal, every forged signature, every lie dressed in family love. I laid them out like puzzle pieces across my coffee table. Then I tested the projector twice, made sure the speakers worked. The flash drive sat beside the laptop like a loaded weapon. At 4:55 p.m., I changed into a plain navy blouse and pulled my hair back. No dramatics, no makeup, just me, raw, ready. At 5 o'clock sharp, the doorbell rang. The first to arrive, of course, was my mother, in a cream blouse and pearls, smiling like a politician during a scandal. "Autumn, honey," she said, stepping in with a bottle of wine. "I'm so glad you came to your senses. We just want what's best." "Please," I cut her off softly. "Have a seat." Next came Dad, then Mason, dragging his feet and looking like he'd just rolled out of a country club brunch. No one brought flowers. No one asked how I'd been. They just took their usual seats, like it was any other Sunday dinner. I stood in front of the projector. "I asked you here," I began, voice steady, "because you deserve to see what Grandma really wanted, and I'm tired of pretending I don't know." My dad shifted in his chair. "Autumn, we already discussed." "No," I said, louder now. "You talked. I stayed quiet. That's not the same." I plugged in the USB. The screen lit up. Grandma's voice, warm and familiar, filled the room. "If you're watching this, it means Autumn refused to sign." My mom sat upright, lips pressed tight. "I knew this family would try to use guilt as currency. That's why I left this message, for the only person who's ever truly earned my trust." The room went dead still. My father opened his mouth to speak, then stopped. Mason turned pale. Mom's knuckles whitened as she gripped her wine glass. "Autumn gets everything, and if anyone attempts to manipulate her into giving it up, 100% of the remaining trust will be redirected to charity. Automatically, legally, without appeal." I paused the video. "I know you wanted me to stay silent, to play the grateful daughter role forever, but this—" I gestured around the room. "This was never about love. This was about leverage." Dad's voice trembled. "Autumn, come on! We're your family." "No," I said, meeting his eyes. "You're people who took and took because you assumed I'd never say no." Mom stood up, shaking now. "You don't understand what this means. If that clause activates, we lose everything. Your father could go to prison." I turned to her slowly. "I know," I said, and walked to the coffee table. I picked up the stack of printed evidence, highlighted lines, account numbers, transaction dates. I held it all in my hands like firewood. Then I handed them to Mason. His hands trembled as he flipped through page after page. "Mom, is this true?" She didn't answer. And that's when I dropped it. The twist. The trust has already been activated. All three of them froze. I submitted the activation request yesterday morning. The charities have already been notified. 48% of the assets are being transferred tonight. "You what?" My father exploded, face turning red. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" "Yes," I said, calm. "I followed Grandma's will, the one you tried to bury with her." He lunged forward, but Mason stopped him. "Don't," he whispered. "She's got us. It's over." The silence that followed was deafening. I looked around one last time. The faces that used to feel like home were now strangers, caught not in grief, but in panic. And in that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Power. Real, earned, undeniable power. Because for the first time, I wasn't surviving their lies. I was dismantling them. They didn't leave right away. After the video, after the documents, after I told them nearly half the inheritance was already gone to charity, my parents just sat there. Stunned. Silent. Mason had disappeared into the kitchen, probably trying to make sense of how he lost access to a fortune he thought was his by bloodline. I didn't offer them water, or comfort, or excuses. I just stood there and watched the roles shift. Me, once the background character in my own family drama, now holding the pen and directing the final act. But I wasn't done yet, because there was one more piece they hadn't seen. I picked up a slim white envelope from the bookshelf behind me and walked back toward the coffee table. My mom flinched when I placed it down. "This," I said, "is a formal complaint. Not sent yet, but drafted, signed, and dated. Ready to go to the Office of Inspector General?" My dad squinted. "What complaint?" I looked him straight in the eye. "You remember the research grant Grandma set up through the hospital she used to work with? The one Mom signed off on using her power of attorney while Grandma was in rehab?" His eyes widened. My mother went pale. "You transferred over $70,000 of nonprofit funds into a marketing budget for a home remodel. I have the emails, the invoices, even the contractor's testimony." "No one will believe that," Mom hissed, her voice low and venomous. "It's your word against ours." I pulled out my phone and played a voice memo, her voice crystal clear. "Just split the budget between the landscaping and kitchen upgrades. We'll call it community engagement aesthetics. They won't know the difference." She froze. I paused the recording. "It's not just my word anymore," I said. "It's Grandma's records, Francine's files. And this," I tapped the phone, "is admissible." My father buried his face in his hands. But I wasn't done. Because what they really feared wasn't legal exposure, it was reputation. "You always told me I was too emotional," I said, "that I'd never survive in the real world if I didn't toughen up." I looked around the room, my voice growing steadier. "Well, I did toughen up. I did it quietly, while you drained me, while you called me overdramatic every time I asked for honesty, while you praised Mason for doing the bare minimum and shamed me for saying no." And then I dropped the real bomb, the twist they never saw coming. "I'm launching a foundation," I said, pulling out a printed flyer and setting it gently on the table. "The Gloria Whitmore Foundation, named after Grandma, focused on financial literacy and emotional resilience for women raised in manipulative households." My mom scoffed. "And how do you plan to fund that? You gave the money away, remember?" I smiled, cold, certain. "I didn't give it all away," I said. "Just enough to make sure you couldn't touch it." She blinked. My father looked up, and I delivered the final line like I'd rehearsed it 100 times. "I invested the rest, in my name only. High yield, high control. Grandma left me power over the shares in Langford Pharmaceuticals, the ones you tried to hide." My dad stood. "That's impossible." I walked to my desk, opened the top drawer, and pulled out a notarized copy of the stock transfer. "Grandma changed it 6 months before she died. She had a feeling you'd try to rewrite history." I stepped forward. "You thought I'd be your fallback plan forever. The dependable one, the stable one, the silent one." I stared them both down, calm and steady. "But I'm not your safety net anymore. I'm the damn firewall." They didn't speak. Couldn't. Mason walked in just in time to hear the last words. "What firewall?" he asked, confused. I turned to him, quiet now. "The kind that makes sure no one ever exploits this family name again, especially from the inside." And with that, I opened the front door. Meeting's over. 2 weeks after that last meeting, the silence from my family was deafening. No texts, no calls, not even passive-aggressive Facebook posts. Just nothing. It should have felt peaceful. Instead, it felt like the calm before a storm. And the storm came, one Tuesday morning, when my mom's lawyer sent an official appeal request to freeze the remaining assets of the trust. She claimed I had acted with undue influence and emotionally manipulated an elderly woman for personal gain. My blood boiled. She was trying to paint me, the granddaughter who stayed up night after night managing meds and feeding schedules, as a predator. I forwarded the email to Francine. Within 6 hours, she filed a response so sharp it could have been framed as art. Attached were timestamps of my mother's wire transfers, the signed audio memos, the fake invoices, and Grandma's video declaration that named me the only rightful heir. By Friday, the court dismissed my mom's claim entirely. But I wasn't done, because I had one last move left. I'd stayed quiet long enough, let them whisper behind closed doors, let them smear my name in subtle digs and family group chats. But now, It was my turn to speak publicly. That weekend, I stood on a small stage at a financial empowerment summit in Dallas. The theme was, Reclaiming What's Yours. Seemed fitting. I didn't read from notes. I just told the truth. My name is Autumn Whitmore, I began, and I'm the daughter of a family that praised me for being dependable, right up until I stopped letting them use me. I told the room about the fake birthday celebration, the forged paperwork, the video Grandma left behind, the clause that protected the inheritance, the charities that received life-changing donations because I refused to fold. I saw heads nodding, some people crying, others clapping halfway through my sentences like they couldn't hold back anymore. I ended with this. Sometimes the people who raised you are the ones who taught you how to abandon yourself, and healing means learning to come home, to you again. When I stepped off the stage, people lined up to thank me. A high school girl whispered that her dad had used her college fund for his gambling addiction. A nurse told me her mom opened credit cards in her name when she was 16. I realized right then, this wasn't just about my family. It never was. It was about all of us who've been told that saying no is betrayal, that setting boundaries is cruelty, that protecting ourselves is selfish. So I kept going. I launched the Whitmore Initiative, a nonprofit focused on financial abuse awareness, survivor legal support, and education for women rebuilding after family betrayal. And yes, I used part of the trust to fund the first year myself, because if Grandma taught me anything, it's that money means nothing if it's used to trap people, but everything if it's used to free them. 3 months later, my mom tried to reach out again. Not to apologize. To clear the air before a wedding my cousin was hosting. She wanted to avoid looking bad in front of extended family. I replied with one sentence. You taught me that blood is thicker than water, until it's used to drown you. She didn't reply after that, and I didn't lose sleep over it, because the truth is, closure didn't come from their remorse. It came from my refusal to keep bleeding for people who only loved me when I stayed small. If that ending hit you hard too, drop a 2 in the comments, and stick around if you want more stories like this, because no one talks about what it takes to reclaim yourself after betrayal. But we will. Right here. Together.